everyone. Thank you for tuning into the JPIS fundraising livestream. This is a quick reminder for you to click the link in our description box below and donate to our COVID-19 crowdfunding campaign in association with Give India, Uplift, and Ujala Foundation. Welcome to the College Roundtable. Today, we're joined by two students from one of the most prestigious science and technology institutions, Caltech. Asaf Gupta and Mehul Jangir, the leader par excellence. Whether it was leading in high school or now, they have always been at the forefront of their communities, whether it be in initiatives or academics. They have made it their mission to stand out and inspire. We are honored to have you both here.
It's Asaf Kumar. Sorry for that, Asaf. So I just will begin with, talking about you, Asaf. And this is a long time before we even thought of applying to Caltech. I met you towards the end of grade 11th. You were, of course, moving from Chandigarh. And it was a question that I had to ask myself, while I was speaking to you, that whether we would be a good fit for you or not. And I remember over the course of, I think I had a 20-30 minute chat with you. Your mom was there in the office. One thing you promised was an excessive amount of hard work. And that's really what stuck with me. And that's when I said, this kid is going to go places. So was it always like this? Were you always willing to work the hardest?
So I guess I have had the habit of having a set goal and then working towards it, obviously. But when it came to my US dreams and, college application, it had a special place in my heart. Since grade 8, I think I was set that, I want to go abroad. I want to go to the US and I want to study in a good college there. So since all those 3-4 years of planning since grade 8, studying hard even grade 9th, because apparently they take 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th grade. So planning from the beginning. When I met you, it was those were one of my top goals and dreams in that particular stage of my life. I had the drive for that. So I'd say whenever I had the drive for something, whenever I had that goal, hard work came with it, because there's no shortcuts, obviously, that you can take.
And how did you make this difficult decision of moving schools in the middle of grade 11th, almost at the beginning of grade 12th, I would say? It's not easy, because you're going to come in, have to make new friends, live in a boarding school for the first time for you, new teachers who get a short period to know you, write letters of recommendations for you, no school leadership position. So you're leaving a lot of what you had, right? And significant opportunity cost, and moving to this new environment with a lot of question marks.
Mm-hmm. So to answer that, I'd say, to begin with, it was one of the toughest decisions that I've ever had to make. It was a lot of things went into the whole process. It was not I asked myself this question one day and I was like, okay, yes or no, I want to shift schools. It was a whole process. Over the few months, I was feeling even with the curriculum at my previous school, it was not that challenging enough. What I would have expected out of a board like IB was something a little different from what I was kind of getting. So maybe also to increase the challenge. But obviously, since my dream and my goal of studying abroad is something that I want to complement with my board and my studies and what all experiences I get and the opportunities I get. And I just felt JPIS was a place where I could have gotten those opportunities better. Maybe even those challenges were more, and obviously challenges included that, adjusting to a completely new environment in the hostel and staying away from family and my 2 lovely dogs that I love so much, and, just away from all of my friends. And obviously virtually now it's commonplace, but at that time it was connections kind of broke, or friendships were it was you weren't spending that much time with your friends. So everything was new, but again, it was a process and a lot of things went into it. For example, the boarding school part was it was a pro, because the next 4 years of my life, in fact, I don't know how many countless years of my life are going to be independent. I'll have to manage on my own. And even though hostel is a little bit of there are people to guide you, there are people to have a little bit of surveillance over there and just keep a check on you. It's still like independence is far more than just your home, and you're living there on your own. So you're going there, it's like college. You're going to a new environment, you're going to make new friends, you're going to talk to new people out there, and it's including staff, hostel staff, school staff, teachers, and students. Everyone forms a part of that. So it was like, it came for me as like one of the pro points, one of the pro factors of moving to JPIS, that yes, this is going to help me. And then generally I've never been afraid of change, which involves me to be, to adapt to something new, to be flexible. And that's exactly what I needed in coming to this new school, coming so late into this new school. And obviously there was a risk, but then again, weighing the pros and cons and everything, it was like, okay, I think this feels right. And the final step that actually brought me here was when I visited the school for a day, and I spent the whole day in school. I had lunch in school. I did everything. I went to talk to teachers and everything. And just for me, it's always been about the vibe a lot. Even with Caltech, it was a lot about the vibe. I just visited the campus, and same for JPIS. I just had that vibe, which I could connect with, and it felt like the right place for me. So yeah, that was the final step to the whole process.
Asaf, you've touched on a few very important points, because many people would look at the school social media page and see your acceptance direct, right? But they don't know the struggles, the heartbreaks, the kind of failures that went through. So just to let everybody know, Asaf was phenomenal with his physics, math, computer science. But when it came to writing, there was something amiss. He hadn't been a voracious reader. And when it came to writing his college application essays, I think must have gone through dozens of drafts on each supplement on your common application essay. And I remember something that stuck with me. I think you take a lot of inspiration. Of course, you've been an international tennis player. You've taken a lot of inspiration from Nadal. And if you saw even a frown on mine or Akiti ma'am's face with your essay, you were ready to go back at it and rework on it, because you also wanted to attain perfection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, definitely that is very true. When it came to like essays, writing is not my strong point. Let me tell you, even at Caltech, when I had to take those writing classes, which are mandatory, it's kind of hellish at times, honestly. But then again, it's like, even if you have the greatest ideas, even if you have the knowledge to, build the next form of transportation or do whatever, and it's just, you need to be able to express yourself well. And this is something that became very clear to me in college, because no matter what research you do, no matter the greatest idea that you have, you need to be able to convey yourself well, because it's never going to be like solo work when you're at college. You will need a team of people helping you, right? May that be a professor with research, may that be a group of students from your batch, or different seniors involved in the whole project. But you need to be able to like express yourself well. And that process started with common app essay and the college essays. It was like, you have this idea, you want to present yourself as this, amazing student, obviously, and you want to boast about yourself also, but you want to be subtle, and you don't want to be, you want to showcase your qualities, but through a story medium, right? You want to show them the journey that you've been through all these years. And it was a unique challenge, something that I never taken up before, obviously. And it was like, not only to get into those good colleges, not only to just, have that perfect common app to get you into Ivy Leagues and Caltech and Stanford and whatnot. It was more about, for me, to have that essay that even if 5 or 10 years down the line, I read that, it's perfection. I can just, it's a moment that once I read it, I have that moment to just reminisce and just think about what my life has been, what my life was like when I was applying to colleges and what stage I was at, and it's very special to me, those essays that I've written for every single college. It was not just for the college, it was for me. It was me, while writing those, thinking about so many moments that I've been through in my life, so many things you have to talk about the essays, and they just, you just remember those. And that's one of the good parts and the best parts of writing these essays is, you get that time to just think about what you've been through, and that was all it's about. So it was not just perfection to reach or just to impress the admissions officer, but it's also about, for me, to have the good essay, which just reflects me and me as a person in my journey.
Great. And also, I think my last question to you, I think it was around 15th of December. you got your first defer
Yeah.
from your ED, then you got another defer from where you're currently studying. And many times people believe deferment means rejection. However, Asav did not, I'm saying these applications are already submitted. So it wasn't that he could rework on his Caltech or his other school's application, but there was more he could do within the time he had moved to a more challenging environment. But then Mr. Kumar decides to write a brand new research paper on a subject in a field that he's passionate about, but not so knowledgeable about. So he has to invest a lot of time, energy, work, research. So, what drove you to do that between the months of January to February? In a couple of months, you dished out, I remember, this phenomenal research paper while everybody else was struggling that how will I manage my eyes and extended essay and IP exams and blah, blah, blah.
So I think it's just the question, not only with, college and college applications is one of the biggest parts of your life, and they're going to be something that you remember always. But just as a general note, for anything that you pursue, anything in your life, it's like you just need to ask yourself the question that, is this going to be worth it? Right? Is this worth your time and effort? Whatever you put that into, right? It can be anything, from friendships to research papers to college applications to your 11th 12th studies, whatever it is. But it's just, for me, it was like asking myself, yeah, I've been deferred, but that means they like me in the first place, right? I was not rejected. I was considered that, yes, he might be a good choice for us, right? So at some point in my application, a few places would have probably been a little weak or something that I lacked at, right? And I saw, and I tried to analyze my application. I tried to talk to sir and ma'am about it. And I came up with a point that, yeah, maybe research is someplace that, I didn't do pioneer. I hadn't had a whole published research paper written before that. It was just maybe casual research or part of IAs and EEs that I talked about in my common app also. So it was something that I thought that, yeah, as Caltech, being one of the biggest research institutes out there in the world, not even in the United States, I thought that, yes, maybe research is what I can focus on, and this is something that my application might have lacked at. And then the balance that sir's talking about between IAs and E's and going beyond your comfort zone, that again lies it's the central question you ask yourself: is this going to be worth it, right? Even if it's only a 5% chance that I write this paper, and this paper gets me plus points on the research aspect of my application and gets me into Caltech, when I get that admissions letter, and if I get the opportunity to study there, will it be worth it, right? Will it be worth it to put in that effort? And I found the answer to be yes, for me. And that's what drove me to write research papers, to go beyond my comfort zone and explore a field which was very pertinent at the moment. It was about crop residue burning. It was a very pertinent global matter. It was a concerning matter. And yeah, so it touched aspects of social work also, something concerning also global matters. So it was something that affected a lot of people and not just me and my personal research. And also it was something that I was very passionate to research about. I went into villages to talk to farmers and whatnot. So I did live field work in that. It was fun, And at one point, it was actually also break from, the stress of IAs and IB and your school routine, right? You're just coming back to the hostel, you're doing this, you're doing studies. But I was home for the winter break. I had a few months at home. So that was the time I could just do something fun. And if that fun can produce some productive work, something that you can use for your benefits, not just Netflix, then I went for it. So that's it.
Great, Asaf. Thank you. Moving to you, Mehul. I don't think there are two more diverse students who've been admitted into Caltech that I can think of. If I had to think from the beginning to draw two diverse, I would think of Asaf and Mehul. So Mehul, you've been this academically prodigy, this academic genius, right from grade 1 till grade 9, 10, of course, all your A stars. You became an author right in grade 8 and 9. And everybody, of course, viewed you as this one-of-a-kind genius who would never have any setbacks or failures because everything he touched was gold. Is that true? Is that how your high school journey was?
Not at all. It's been way more about the failures than about the parts where I succeeded. Because even take my book that you said I wrote in ninth grade, in 8th and 9th. So uh, that was like the fourth writing idea that I worked on, and that was the fourth manuscript that I wrote. So it's about all the stuff that I did before the things that turned out to that turned out well. So I had about three other writing projects going on before the book that got published, and like I scrapped those three, so they were monumental failures for me. I wasted almost a year on one of them, then about 2 months on one of them, and then again in even high school I think some of you might know that I wrote two research papers, and but it's not about those two research papers that turned out really well, and that like the professors that mentored me and I wrote them under, they thought they were really good, and they even felt like they could get published in the very top journals. But I had so many ideas going on before those two research papers. I had about 3 to 4 research papers that I started writing, but then I scrapped those ideas because once again they started heading into that failure direction. And even if you take academics, I've not always been the most academically sound person. The reason my exam results have been so good is that I do a lot of practice papers, and like that's recommended. Everyone should do those, but I fail a lot right at the start of those practice papers. And as time progresses, I just start failing less because then I get a very fair idea of what can go wrong and what I need to do in order to succeed. For example, if you take a math problem, and so there's a particular way to solve every math problem, and if you don't know that particular way, then the higher the number of problems you solve, the easier it will be to find that method, to find that way which you need to solve that specific problem. So once again, like it, it's not been about parts where I succeeded. It's all like I always see what my achievements and my successes as something that's been built on top of a mountain of failures, and it's through those failures that I've learned how to do everything. Even the college application process,
So
like
Mehul, I'll pause you there because knowing you, I know of two very distinct qualities that you brought in. One which worked very well for you, and one perhaps which did not, and which you had to overcome or still may try to overcome right now. The thing that you were always, forthcoming and you had your eyes straight on was you were never the kid to follow the herd. So if there could be, 100 people in the room and 99 could be going in a particular direction or choosing a particular activity to do, you were very sure of what your interests were, what your passions were, and that's what drove you. So it wasn't about following people around you, but following your passion. So where did you inherit this trait or quality from, and how can you tell others that replication is not necessarily the best way to move forward?
so yeah, I mean that's very true. Like I do like creating my own paths, and like, I think that's mainly because I've read so many books as a youngster that that idea of being a hero and going on my own path is very stuck in my brain now. Like I idolized Harry Potter a lot during my childhood, and just how Harry created his own path, how he defeated Voldemort, and so basically like I don't. Harry was pretty much an imposter during his 8 years at Hogwarts. He had two main friends, and he wasn't that much of a friend to anybody else throughout his time at Hogwarts. He was sort of an outcast in between and friends with everyone in between. So it was just an on and off thing. And I sort like that hero idea sort of got stuck in my head over those years, and that's the inspiration for why I've always I have always liked creating my own path. And like as I said, even if 99 people are saying something, then I would rather do my own thing than listen to them, because I don't like that idea of being a hero is so prevalent that I don't like what other people think won't influence me in making a decision, and I'd rather follow my own thing.
But Mehul, this came at a cost. This came at a
Yeah.
cost. You had all the academic glory and medals since you were talking about Mount Achievement, but you
Mhm.
realized there was something lacking. I think it was one of the TEDx meetings, very inconsequential in the larger scheme of things, that turned out to be one of the most important lessons for you. And all of a sudden, this superstar kid was thrown out as a team member of one of the very important events of school. What happened, and what happened during that? What happened post that?
Uh, so like just for context, I got kicked out of the 2019 TEDx team, and that was around 3 to 4 days before the event. I was supposed to design something using the Arduino or the Raspberry Pi for the event, and I couldn't do so. And like like I accept the fact that I didn't put in the required effort for that, and it wasn't a team member. I was just like I said, I was trying to do my own thing with the Raspberry Pi, and I could have ditched that because that was going nowhere. But I was still putting a lot of effort into it. But like deep down, I knew that it wouldn't go anywhere. So instead of doing that, I could have worked with the rest of the team and gone to school and worked with the design team to put up everything in the event and help organize the event. But I just wanted to do my own thing, and that got me kicked off the team. So like immediately after that, my first reaction, I guess, was just being shocked because I never really thought that I was someone who could be kicked off the TEDx team. I thought of myself as a very important member of the team, so it just like it honestly just shook me. I didn't have any reaction except that right at the start. After that, I talked to Aisar and Akrityam about it, and there really wasn't any way back into the team, seeing how close it was to the event. But like I really knew that I had to make a change, and I tried to do that with the student council. So that this was midway throughout my student government, how long it lasted. So after that, I really tried to start doing group projects and stuff. I did the online MUN, and I started the editorial club, like the process of creating a magazine and everything. But this time, instead of trying to do my own thing and just listening to myself and doing what I thought was right, I started taking everyone else's inputs. And like I still didn't know how to work in a team that well. If I was in a team, I would rather disagree with my teammates than listen to them and actually hear what they have to say. And so I that just started a transition from listening to myself to listening to everyone. uh, and I think that's how I went from being a speaker to a listener. So and this is what my common app was about, this exact journey from not being that good of a team player to being very collaborative. And I think getting into Caltech is very it's very significant in that because Caltech as a college is very collaborative in nature from what I've heard. And I think Asaf will agree, I haven't been there yet. uh, it it requires collaboration as a very prominent trait in all of its students. So I personally am very proud of how I can get into college that requires so much collaboration in a student now. And yeah, like there's obviously been that journey from getting kicked out of the TEDx team to being where I am now. I've had to recognize a lot of my faults and I've had to work on them. That's mainly been through just going out there and working with teammates, even if I didn't like it. At the start, I didn't like it at all. I would disagree in my head, but I sort of calmed myself down and I didn't voice my opinions and I listened to people. And that's how that transition just gradually started. Even during the college application phase, I always thought that I wouldn't go to anyone for feedback. I would just have my own idea and I would keep working on it. And I would take Ayusar and Akrityam's feedback into account, but I wouldn't take anyone else seriously because deep down I thought that they were either trying to sabotage me or that it's my essay. So, obviously I know what to do with it. Why would anyone else know what my essay should be like? That's what I thought college essays should be like, but it I changed. And after I took inputs from like over 15 people. I took inputs from Ayusar and Akrityam, obviously, and then I took inputs from Nirbhay, Ghatiwala, Pandey, and all of them gave me such crucial feedback to my essay that I don't think I would have gotten into Caltech without their help and without their inputs for my essays. And so really, like, I thought I was just a product of my beliefs and my opinion before, but now I know that I'm a product of the beliefs of everyone around me.
So Mehul, it was important that you found the balance in the nick of time at the right time because it was almost about submission time. But coming back to your common app, your probably submission was the last. You had, of course, a lot of questions and doubts about the Iron Man analogy and which song to use in your essay and so forth. So again, a student who's written multiple books in grade 8 and 9 doesn't necessarily mean can dish out a piece of creative writing for his college essay. So any advice you want to give to your juniors?
So here's one thing that I distinctly like. This is one opinion that I feel very strongly about. There's this Chinese book called The Dark Forest, and there's a character in it that talks about. So basically, the character is an author, and she talks about how she creates stories, and she talks about her characters as two-dimensional slices of their three-dimensional reality. So what this means is that their characters have a really they live from when they were born to whatever age they died at, and the only part of them we see in the story is just that specific slice that's there. So, for example, if Hermione Granger died at the age of 83, the only slice of her that we see throughout those 83 years is what she was from the ages 11 to 20. So I really think of the college essays as a slice of your entire journey. So for example, so my high school journey is it. My GPS journey started in 5th grade and it ended in 12th grade. So I obviously can't put 7 years of progress into just 750 words. I can't even put 4 years of progress in high school into 750 words. So I have to find a way to turn those 4 years. So I have to find a specific 1 month span that acts as a slice for those 4 years. And I really thought of that journey from not being a teammate, not being a good teammate at all, to being someone who actually knows how to function in a team and who loves functioning in teams, as the slice that indicated my journey in high school.
I think that is both the case for you and Asaf, where you did not know where to begin with your college application essay. Asaf, I remember we had gone over 3 or 4 different ideas before we stuck to a particular tennis game that had meant the world to you, and that had been the point of realization for you. So, before I hand it over to Aditya, Ariman, and Harsh, all I can say is that you have to keep on trying. You hit writer's blocks. You hit a point where you feel you can't think anymore. You have to be at it. Procrastination is okay for an hour or so, but beyond that, I can give you examples of both Mehul and Asaf that even when they were stuck, even when they produced academic writing or essay writing, which was not up to the mark, there was something always ready for us to see. So, Asaf, you have any comments to add to that? And thank you once again, Asaf and Mehul. After Asaf, I'll leave it up to the 3 students to take this conversation further.
Yeah, I'll just add a quick point to that. It was a very good point raised by Sir on the fact that it's a process. Again, it's not like you're gonna get the perfect idea in the first time around, or you're gonna just even people have written like 20, 30 drafts. People have written 5 drafts and been over with. It's just different for every person because it's a process unique to your story that you're trying to tell in your Common App essay. And yeah, it's just keep trying, keep thinking. Ideas strike anywhere. I mean, ideas have struck me. I'm taking a shower and there's an idea that I just want to write about. I just get out and I write 4 lines about that, and then I continue whenever I have time to just think about it and explain it more. But it can just pop. This ideas just pop up anywhere you are. So I just point the fact out that for anyone who's about to begin this process, because fall's about to be here, and you guys are going to be applying early and then regular. An essay usually starts that you should start early. So first thing, start early so that you have multiple tries, right? Even if one story doesn't pan out, you can move on to the other idea. You can start a new essay topic, anything. And don't ever be afraid to start anything new. Just, up until the perfection point, just keep trying. And there will be a point where you reach that perfection. With your essay, that essay that you absolutely love. It's not that Sir loves it or some other friends of your family members love it. It's that you love it. And this is what you want the admission officer to read about you. And these are the 650 words that will tell them about yourself, right? Not except from your academic scores and your your ECs and your awards and whatnot, honors and everything, right? This is what is the story, right? Your story. And basically you in 650 words. And what you think about yourself. So that's what I'm going to tell you. Just don't be afraid of trying again and again, and keep trying. Ideas are just going to pop up anytime. So be ready with just a just notebook or a pen or just your laptop or anything, whatever is comfortable for you, and just keep writing whatever just strikes your head throughout the day, throughout the months, because you can use anything as an example, right? And when you do sit down to write your final draft, obviously in that few hours, you're not going to remember your whole life, right? Your whole 10, 18 years of your life. And people have included examples from basically nursery school, or maybe events that have happened when they were so little, right? And you don't remember that in just a few hours you're writing your final draft, right? So anyone who asks me for advice on essays, this is the biggest advice I can give you. Start early so that you have time. Don't be afraid to fail or to not produce the perfect draft. And the last thing is keep noting down things that cross your mind, examples or situations or moments in your life, because you're not going to remember all of them in those few hours that you actually sit down to write your final draft.
Thank you so much. That was honestly very helpful to me, and I'm sure every single student who's watching this right now. So far we've heard a lot about your stories and how you've come so far, but before we hop into the college questions, I want to just take another moment to talk about your intellect and your scientific methodology, because I've worked alongside both of you and I've always been amazed by just how you approach a problem and how you work towards solving it. So could you just like walk me through what goes through your mind when you solve a problem?
Sure. Mehul, you want to go first?
Uh, so yeah, like as I said before, you need to firstly find different methods to solve a problem. You need to look at what methods fail, what methods succeed, different perspectives on all the methods involved. If I remember correctly, I worked with Ariman on the hackathon, and so like an example of some of the problems we solved there. Then there were obviously technical programming problems and logistical problems, like contacting speakers, creating lists for who all we wanted to invite, stuff like that. Broadly speaking, the number one thing you can do in problem solving is to divide any method or any steps you're going to like any method into steps that you want to take. For example, if you are doing a research paper, then you need to divide so you need to go about it in a very organized way. Firstly, research about the topic, read background paper, stuff like that, start writing, and it goes on like that. And it's very important to divide any solution down into its basic components. Then you need to work on those basic components, make sure you do them to the maximum, the maximum efficiency possible for each of those components, and that just goes on and on.
So question about scientific intellect is a big one, especially for a STEM student. But for me, it's always been about logical reasoning, which I have kind of picked up from my whole, science journey, I guess. Just thinking about things, logically, and then you, as a STEM student, I've noticed most of the students having an inbuilt, like deep down, they just have that intellectual curiosity inside of them. And when you have that intellectual curiosity, it's basically what you mean by that term is that you question things, right? Every step of the way, you're going to question things, right? You see a fan working at 5 speed and you're like, okay, how does this function, right? A common layman is someone who's not intellectually curious, who's not, that kind of, he doesn't have that kind of mindset. He'll be like, okay, so the fan's working at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 speed. It's just increasing speed. I'm clicking the switches and that's it, like on and off, simple, superficial functions of the fan, for example. Or same goes for functioning car, right? For example, simple things you see every day in your life. For at least me, and I've seen a lot of students who have that intellectual curiosity within them, who want to apply their scientific intellect, who want to logically reason things out. It's like you're going to go and search about how exactly when we just turn a knob on the switch and it just moves from 1 and we can just turn it to 4 or 5, right? How does this just increase its speed at just the touch of a button, right? Just the turn of a knob. And same goes for a car, right? How do hydraulics work in the car? How does just me pressing a brake and such an easy action can stop this heavy and this big of a car, right? If I stand in front of it and if I try to just try to stop it with my bare hands, it's impossible, right? If it's speeding. But no matter what the speed is, you press that you just press the brake and it just stops, no matter what the speed is, right? And that's just, those are the small things. You just, everyday life, man, that's just something which is kind of sciencey, but you can take anything in your life, right? And it's just being curious. It's just questioning every step of the way, which kind of helps at times. Might also be a little tricky and a little, dangerous, I guess, at times. When it comes to a few sensitive things, when it comes to personal things, you might not want to question things. You might want to trust your feelings or your emotions. Sometimes when you reach that stage and when the thing is associated with feelings and emotions, sometimes that scientific intellect might fail. where the logical reasoning might not pan out, right? For you, you want to just trust your emotions, you want to trust your instinct, you want to trust your gut. So again, scientific intellect, I apply it through logical reasoning. I apply it through being curious about everything I'm doing. But at the same time, realizing and understanding that it might not be the best case scenario in every situation you're in. You need to have that balance, right? And that's why curriculum these days teach you humanities and English, and give you the option to learn psychology along with a purely strict STEM major also, right? Even if it's math, physics, or CS, they make you do that. They have that in the core curriculum. There's a reason for that, right? Because not everything in this world can just work on logical reasoning. There are things called belief, there is things like faith, and there are things like emotions, which don't actually always obey the scientific rule. So yeah, that's all I have to say about it.
That was honestly very informative, like not only for like aspiring STEM students, but also for others. So moving on to our next question, what is your major and how like did you know what exactly you were getting yourself into?
Mehul.
All right. So, like as of now, I don't have a major essay. I'm caught between computer science and mechanical engineering, but I'm also interested in mathematics, anything that's astro related, and chemistry. So like, there's very different fields over there. So I can't really say anything about which major I'll be going into. I applied for computer science because that's what I felt like suited my application the most. Even though I've never had CS as a subject, most of my ECs were CS related. And like if you would ask me what I want to do right now, I would say computer science. But like then there's just pull to other fields that's sort of always there. So that's the main reason why I haven't decided my major yet. Uh, as for the second part of your question, like it's very hard to say why I would select CS or mechanical engineering. I've always been drawn to them as a person. That's what I like doing. So one thing that's definitely there is that love for problem solving, and that's really like CS really brings that love for problem solving out. Uh, Once again, it's very easy to design solutions using programming. And believe it or not, I use CS, like I haven't had it as a subject, but I use CS in nearly every single subject at school. So for example, if you have your physics IAs and your chemistry IAs, you normally use other softwares to make graphs for those IAs. But like I used Python and I wrote my own code to make graphs. I didn't use a GUI like GeoGebra or Logit Pro. And so yeah, like CS for me has always been a very distinct way of problem solving. That's why I love the subject. Mechanical engineering again is a very distinct way of problem solving. You get some components, you make a solution to something, and you just invent something. And I really like that ideology of inventing your way to a solution or inventing your way through a problem. I really like the idea of being an inventor, being someone like Tony Stark who designs his own gadgets, goes on and makes his own Iron Man suit. uh and but like if I talk about mathematics or chemistry, that's just like I'm just academically curious about those. I'm not as passionate about them. But yeah, the subjects I'm most passionate about and the ones that I'll most likely pursue at Caltech are computer science and mechanical engineering, either a major minor or a double major if that's possible, like both mentally and from the university side.
Asaf?
Yeah, about my major, I probably going to be doing a CS major with a minor in business entrepreneurship management. And I guess I just keep it short for this. It's kind of like since I've been a little kid, from just even the moment I got to know about emails, it was like, dude, what? I mean, you can just send this from here to like a place 10,000 kilometers away in just a second. It's fascinating, right? And if that's the beginning of technology and how it can affect our lives and everything, I mean, where do we stop, right? And there's no stopping. From movies like Terminators, where you see cyborgs, from actual representation of Sophia, an actual humanoid, which is kind of scary at times, to a lot of beautiful things also that technology has done. from AI models that have been used to create softwares like Siri, which are helpful for person on a daily basis, to a lot of the things that you can do right now. And you've seen that, right? In this virtual world, you've seen how technology has actually helped us to keep everything intact, right? People can work from home. People are doing colleges from home. They're trying to give you the similar experience, just sitting in your room and you're doing that, to doing high school in home and actually continuing clubs and whatnot at home, right? You're having yoga sessions. In fact, NGOs are also keeping so many, informative sessions at home, just virtually on Zoom. So you've seen how technology is the reason, it's been, our world has survived, basically. The whole pandemic, it forced us to go virtual. It forced us to maintain distance, to implement social distancing. I don't know how much of that is being implemented currently in India with the whole situation, but yeah, that was the truth for the world. And technology helped us. It was the boon, and it was the core of our whole transformation and our transition. And it is going to stay, right? That's something that I was listening to one of these one of these amazing speakers talking. I don't remember the name, and he was like, you need to understand that this transition has been very big, and it's been huge for the human population, right? For the whole world, and it's going to stay, right? Tomorrow, if your school wants to call someone from the United States, right, and he can't make it, right, this big of a journey, 24 hours, he doesn't have to, right? Everyone can just listen to him talking in a webinar online. He can be live, but he can be virtually there, right? You get the same information, you get the same experience, but it has been made flexible. Companies have already come out, a lot of companies have brought in fact, Google is one of them, and they've come out with a whole policy for the coming year, which involves a hybrid structure, right? Which involves part-time workers doing a lot of work from home, because most of the companies saw that even the productivity levels of a lot of the staff was better from home, right? They were in their comfort zone. They were working in their own time. They didn't have stress. They didn't have bad employee relations, or employee, there's stress involved, the workload involved, and whatnot. So due to that, it's like, it's going to stay. So you can see how technology just has an impact on everything. It can ease your process out for, you think of anything, think of any problem, and technology can solve that, right? You might need something else with obviously the knowledge of CS, but it can form the core of your solutions. And for me, that has been the fundamental point that to pursue this stream, to do this in my life, because it's like, yeah, tomorrow when I want to solve problems, when I want to help people out, I can use CS to make a change, and that's going to be my whole overview on this on the subject I'm pursuing.
All right, guys. Thank you for sharing your experience and your learnings. I'm sure everyone tuning in right now will learn and apply this to gain success like you have. So my question is, given COVID has affected everything really to a great degree, so how has that changed applying to, well, Caltech? You, Asaf, you applied a year back and you've been in this college for a year, and Mehul, you have applied and will be going there. So how different was the college applying to this college? How much has it changed because of the COVID situation?
I think I'll just say a few words about that, and Mehul can talk about it after me, because he was the one who applied recently. But I'd say the whole process hasn't changed at all. It's the same process. It requires the same hard work. It requires the same effort. A few technicalities here and there wherein you're like, okay, I don't need to give the SAT maybe because it's not required, or the subject SATs, right? So that's one burden off of your mind that, okay, I don't need to study for this. But remember that the whole collective effort that you need to put is basically the same, right? If you're sitting at home and if you don't need to give those subject SATs, it took for me at least 2 attempts to get that score that I wanted on the maths and physics test. 2 attempts in India means at least a couple of months. And for me, it was like at least 4 or 5 months, right? It can span out, because the one attempt and the other attempt, there's at least a month or something gap. And then you prepare for that also, right? For at least 2 months or something to make sure you get the perfect score. So if you're not doing that, just think logically that if you don't have to do the subject SATs, the admissions officer knows that you had those 6 months free, right? You don't have to give the subject SATs. So for me, if I'm giving that test, 5 months or 4 months of my time went into the preparation for that, for giving multiple tries, and that it's basically what they're seeing is how you use your time, right? So if you sat at home for those 5 months, and the time that for me as an applicant in my time, I did the preparation for the test. For Mehul, for example, right, he has the time to himself. He can use it to do so many different things. And that is what, again, I come back to the point that your collective effort remains the same, right? It's not that time for you to, like, obviously you have fun and you relax, but if you use that extra time to watch Netflix or binge movies or just go to parties and everything, it's like you need to maintain that balance again, right? So if you use that extra time, the admissions officer can see that, okay, he just used this excuse to not give the test, use the exemption we gave because of the COVID pandemic. He used this as leisure time. And it's something that colleges don't like. It's not about you having fun. They like you having a balance. You going to parties every single night, perfectly fine. But you using those 2-3 hours every day to do something productive, to apply your knowledge, to be curious, to think about things happening around the world, to help people, whatever it is, to be a leader and lead a project. Numerous things you can do, right? But then again, it comes back to the thing that, yeah, if they've given you an exemption from the SAT, they've given you some kind of exemption, they still expect you to do a lot out of your time. And so it comes back to the same thing that, yeah, your collective effort remains the same. But yeah, Mehul, if you want to add something.
Yeah, definitely. There's been, so like as Asaf said, the process is entirely the same, how you apply, where you apply, all of that. Uh, then some stuff has changed, like the subject, the SAT, obviously. The SAT in India got cancelled for like 4 successive attempts last time. So I know a lot of people who weren't able to give it at all. And then they had genuine reasons about not giving it. Then I know people who who felt like they wouldn't score as high as their college needed. So they didn't give it intentionally so that the colleges feel like it was out of their ability. So it won't be judged against them. So that introduced a lot of variable factors to the entire equation. Then there's also stuff like, so for instance, if you're someone who's really good at sports, if you say a footballer who's playing for the Indian team, then obviously all of that is going to get cancelled. So all of that time that you spend playing football, those 4 hours per day that you're playing football, or those for like, I know Harsh is really into football. So if he's playing football for 3 hours a day, then all of that, he can't do that anymore. If Uditi's playing tennis for 5 hours a day, then she can't do that anymore because you're not allowed to go outside. So what do you do with that time? If you're an athlete and you can't exercise your body and you can't push yourself in playing the sport that you love playing, then like where does that investment really go? And I think the post-pandemic lookout for college applications is really about that. If you're doing an activity that's heavily dependent on being outside and being with other people, and where does that investment and where does that attention go? Like it's, for example, if you were applying, if you want to be a sport recruit, then there's no way you can turn that around. There's no way you can go from being someone who's really good at football, who plays only football, to being someone who's a fantastic researcher. You can't make a complete transformation. And colleges know that. They're well aware of the fact that a person can't go from being an athlete to a researcher in just a span of 2 months. So, like, it's really hard. It's been really hard to show transitions during this pandemic. Obviously, there's been a lot of mental and emotional stress on every single person who's been under lockdown. But the fact is, and like in the most straightforward way possible, it's been there for everyone. So talking about that stress isn't going to help you in your college applications because that's a constant for every single person out there. Obviously, it's a very important factor, but it's not a differentiating factor anymore. Uh, Another thing that I feel like is really significant is your academics. So the IB, for us, all the exams were cancelled. For me, the exams were cancelled this year. So yeah, like your grades aren't there anymore. And like what do you do in your college applications if you don't have your grades? What do colleges judge you on? And in my opinion, the essays really come into the forefront in a situation like this. uh, they become way more important than before. Before, the essays were, like, I would say around 40%. Like, significance of the essays was about 40% in the application process. If you take another person who has exactly the same scores as you, then the essays will be the differentiating factor. But now there are cases where another person who's applying doesn't even have scores and you don't have scores. So the essays become the only factor in some scenarios. So the essays become way more important. The subject test was cancelled from this year onwards, so that won't be another factor anymore. STs are getting cancelled left and right because of COVID-19 again. So once again, those aren't factors. If you're an athlete, then sport isn't a factor. So really, what's it all about now? It's all about your essays.
Yeah, that was actually very insightful coming from both of you, and I'm sure like this pandemic has changed all of us a lot. So moving on to our next question, how would you rate the counseling at JPIS, and would you recommend it to other people? And what was your experience like throughout the whole counseling procedure, like those 4 to 5 months that you had?
Okay, real quick, do I have a scale to rate it on, or do I have to just say kind words?
I mean, 1 to 10 would be.
Okay, I'd give it 1,000 on a scale of 1 to 10. Let me tell you very honestly, and I think Mehul can definitely agree on this with this.
I think I'd give more than 1,000.
Yeah, it's like probably more than 1,000 is possible. I'd give that. Okay, it's like just want the viewers and everyone to know that it is phenomenal. And this is not me trying to butter up Ayushar, because I have gone into my dream college already, and there's no motive for me right now. It's just pure what I felt like and how it was. It was amazing. It's not just about getting amazing essays done, or ECs and so knowing the whole process well. Those were obviously amazing factors, but one of the best things is like you feel like you belong there. Like it's like sir and ma'am give you that place to express yourselves freely. They won't judge you for anything. They won't, it's like you make a mistake, they're not like standing there to make fun of you or stuff like that. You can feel comfortable, and that's one of the best things you need in a counselor, I guess. And while you're doing this whole process, you need someone who can support you and kind of be there for you, right? And it was like sir and ma'am try to be our family in this whole process, to just be there for us all the time whenever we needed them, with whatever it was. Maybe that we were going through something mental or personal, right? And they were there still, and they would understand, and they would give us extensions on some submissions we had, or maybe some schoolwork we needed help with, right? It's just that how accommodating someone can be, just so that you feel comfortable, was one of the best points, I think, when it came to counseling with sir and ma'am. And that has been amazing. I mean, it's been like, you're it's like if you get help from family, that's the feeling you get. And how comfortable you are sharing some idea with mom and dad, maybe, or your brother and sister, same way you'll be comfortable sharing with sir and ma'am. And that's how it's been for me. I'm pretty sure Mehul would agree. But yeah, Mehul, you want to add something, I guess?
Yeah, so like all of these things Asaf said are very true. It feels like a family. It feels like you're talking to someone you've known your entire life. And like I feel like that's very important, because the college applications are essentially a judgment of like the years that you've studied, the years you've done your ECs, and then it's a judgment of whether or not you're capable of continuing that journey at that specific institution. Another thing that I feel like is really significant. So like if you go online, if you go on Reddit or any website like College Confidential, you'll read a lot about people talking about very unhealthy competition in other schools. You'll see stuff about people not showing their essays to anyone, not showing their essays to their friends at all, because they're afraid someone will copy them, someone will take their essays, and then they won't be able to get into their colleges. I feel like that's not true at all for GPIS. Like I had my essays dissected by over 20 people, over 20 students, my classmates, and sometimes classmates who I hadn't talked to that much before. I used to make them sit down with me. They made them go through my essays. And I think that's really important, because he got some of my closest friends to read my essays. He got Nirbhay and Pandey to read my essays. And they really knew me, so they could give fair judgment of how, like, whether or not they felt like the essay was a true representation of the kind of applicant I was. Then he got people who didn't know me that well to read my essays and give me feedback. Because then again, if like that replicates what an AO would feel like. If someone who doesn't know me reads my application, then they'll only go through it once, and their opinions will be a true judgment of what it seems like to a random person. Like those continuous cycles of feedback, that going back and forth between Ayush sir, Akriti ma'am, other students and me, and then me editing my essays, that helped me a lot. And like at GPS, there are so many different techniques and so many different methods Ayush sir has, that I feel like you won't find them anywhere else. Like one thing is the peer review. Then another thing that I can point out is the fact that I didn't feel like I was missing out on my college applications despite the lockdown. So I did around 50% of my early applications online, and then I went to school for a month, and then I worked on the rest of my early applications. But the process started off online, and I always felt like it would be degraded online. It wouldn't be as good as before, and it wouldn't retain the quality it had before. But I never felt like I wasn't receiving enough attention, or that I wasn't like my application wasn't being considered enough at GPS. I never felt the physical distance that was between me and everyone else and me and the school. It always felt connected somehow, and that's really good because that just like it just gave me something to root to, and that connection, that sense of family, that family spirit with GPS really helped me with my college applications.
Yeah, I've heard many stories of Ayusa calling Asaf at like 3 a.m. in order to make him rewrite his essay. um,
Yeah, it's been an amazing journey. Yeah, that's all I can say. It's like 3 a.m. There is no time. Okay, you someday come to school at 6 a.m. and sir's waiting. He's like, okay, where's your research paper idea? Just tell me where's that work you promised me 2 days ago? And I'm like, oh god, sir, I don't have anything at 6 a.m. in the morning. But yeah, it's been a hell of a journey. Yeah, go ahead.
so, Asaf, this is a question that's mainly for you. But since Caltech heavily focuses on exploration and innovation, coming up with new ideas and branching out to topics that you haven't been in before, how have you experienced that not only among your peers but in the classes themselves? And how did that differ from your experience at JPIS?
Um, so I really think I don't think the question is pretty factually correct in the sense that even though school focuses on like academics or research, obviously every school has their own particular priority points and fields they want to work on. But when it comes to colleges in the United States, it's no matter the ranking, if it is T20 or it's not T20, it's not about that. It's just as a general rule, they love balancing. They love the factor that a student can balance while reading applications, but they love to do that as a college also. They will have research opportunities to amazing options while opting classes, different subjects, different fields you can work on. They will also have various opportunities for you to play sports and manage that if you're an athlete. And they will have 100 different clubs for you to explore your other extracurricular interests outside of the classroom, outside of the sports field. So I feel like, yes, for Caltech, I can tell you that, yes, I mean, it is lacking in sports, as in like, obviously it is a D3 school. For everyone who's out there who doesn't know, United States athletics works on a system wherein they're Division 1 or Division 3 schools. Very few of them are Division 2, so I won't talk about that. But Division 1 schools are those who produce Olympic athletes, who produce athletes who play for the state, the country itself. And D3 schools are for students who want to balance. Students who probably are going to end up going into that industry job, working from 9 to 5 or earning cash by the hour, but still want to make sure that they get their time. They get an hour or two every other day to just do something they love, right? It's like, I love playing tennis, I love doing swimming, so I get the time to do that too. It also keeps you fit, right? And that's what they believe in. Even while reading applications, it's never going to be like, they only, if it's like a school like Duke, for example, and they're big on D1 sports, let me tell you. And they have a huge department for Duke, for basketball. And Duke basketball every year sends a player to NBA, for junior MBAs and possible shadow recruits into actual teams. Like Lakers have gotten players directly from Duke basketball. That's how big it is. But even if a basketball recruit is applying, no matter how good he is, they will look for those good academic scores. They would look for him to have been able to balance out in his whole journey, in his whole process of school and high school. So they're not ever gonna, while application also, their principles also while functioning, it's never gonna be like they just focus on one thing, right? Just because you're a basketball player and you're amazing at it, they're not going to take you for that. They're going to take you that basketball player has done so well, as was for me. He's a national level tennis player. He has played for his state team. He's done swimming nationals. He's done that. But while doing that, he has been able to manage good scores. He's able to do. He is able to explore other interests of his. He's able to manage work as part of NGOs also. A diverse interest. He's been able to balance out everything that he wants to do. And the tennis or swimming just form one part of it, and they're just one thing that he loves doing. So he's doing that. Another thing, other than that, another thing I would want to point out is that for students listening out there who are maybe not possible recruits, right? They don't want to play at that kind of level, but they've put a lot of years into some kind of sport or some kind of have been an athlete in their life. Remember that no matter how good you are at that, unless you're showing your profile to a recruiter and they get happy seeing a list of 25 trophies you won in the last year, the admissions officer is not going to care about any of that. He's going to care about what you bring to the classroom from the tennis court, from the swimming pool, or from a martial arts ring, or from wherever you're coming, from a cricket field. What are you bringing to the classroom as part of your personality, as something that you've learned, right? And for everyone I know, it's different, right? Someone learns perseverance, someone learns grit, someone learns teamwork, someone learns cooperation. There are so many different traits and characteristics you develop on, you kind of build, and that's what they're kind of looking at. So coming back to the question, it's like, it wasn't difficult. I haven't been on campus yet, so obviously I can't tell you the exact specifics of how scheduling works and how it's easy to balance, but I have talked to a lot of seniors about this. A lot of them have been balancing, playing tennis or going to the gym every day. Someone loves doing that, anything, and been able to manage Caltech rigor. So it focuses on academics, it focuses on research, but there will never be a time when you don't get the space and the comfort zone to balance things out, to do other things that you're passionate about too. And it can be anything, maybe managing a YouTube channel, maybe doing anything you want to do. So I hope I didn't stray far from the question, but that's
Thank you, Asaf, for sharing that. For me personally, I love sports. I play football, I swim, I run. Those are the first things my dad taught me, and I think what you shared, I'll make sure to use it and see how I can help myself. However, moving on, this is a question inclined to Mehul. So we wanted to ask you, since Caltech, is famous, everyone they say that it has a very small student to teacher ratio, and thus it's very selective. So, and you got in. So, what can you tell us about your application, which you think made you stand out from other people?
Like I talked about collaboration before, and I feel like that's very, very important for Caltech. One thing that they're looking for in a student more than anything else is the ability to work in a team. I remember reading about how at Caltech it's compulsory to solve your problem sets with other students, sit down with them, and actually collaborate on the stuff you're doing, on the academic work that you're doing. For exams, even some of the exams, I think I'm not sure, but a lot of stuff involves you to work together. So in my application, I really had to convey the fact that I loved working with people, and I do, but it's very hard to say I love working with people in words other than just going right out and saying I love working with people. You have to tell them a story that conveys the fact that you're actually good in a team. So, and I had 4 essays to do that. So I had to devote almost my entire Caltech specific application to the fact that I want to work in a team at Caltech. One of the Caltech essays directly asks you how you're going to collaborate over there. So I won't go into that. One essay that's very important is the diversity essay. So if you don't know the prompt exactly, the essay asks you to talk about how you will be contributing to Caltech's diversity and how you will be making their community more diverse. So in that essay, I talked about exploring Caltech on my bike. So I opened up Google Maps and I like I made a biking route from building to building. I had 6 buildings, and I talked about each building individually. I talked about how I'm going to collaborate at each building, how I'm going to explore CS and engineering at each building, and how I'll be exploring Pasadena on my bike. So that essay was basically a story about a bike trip through Caltech, through Pasadena. And in that story, I wove that element of teamwork, that element of collaboration through that theme of different buildings. If you got, say, this programming center over here, I'll talk about biking outside and then working on problem sets with other techers inside. So that's one way I remember through which I conveyed collaboration. Then another thing that I feel like is very important if you're talking about working in a team, it's that you don't have to be serious 100% of the time. My Caltech fun essay, so Caltech has this prompt that asks you to talk about what you do for fun, and they mention like it's supposed to be fun that you can do with other people. It's not just something you do alone. So I talked about how I prank my teammates and my friends at school and in teams, and I wrote about, I don't know, 10 to 15 different pranks. It was just a very long series of pranks, just dot dot dot. You got prank A, prank B, prank C, nothing else. The entire essay was basically just a list of stuff, of fun stuff I've done with other people, I've done on other people, and stuff other people have done on me. And this was a really memorable essay for me because I remember I was sitting down with Ayush in the conference room, and he called in 4 to 5 of my friends, and then he asked each of them to write down stuff I've done to them as pranks or stuff they've done to me as pranks, and I had to turn those ideas into an essay. I remember talking about taking Oreo biscuits and then pulling them apart and replacing the cream inside with toothpaste and giving them to my friends. I actually did that once, and I talked about telling Pranava that I talked about hiding Pranava's clothes, who was my roommate back then, so that he can finally go and do his laundry. So I wrote about small, stupid stuff like that. And I think it's very important to have that element of fun and have that pranky nature in a team.
I'm sure it's honestly very important to have that one element of fun. And it honestly sounds very interesting, whatever you've done in your past and whatever you're preparing for your future. So, moving on to Asaf Bhaiya, I have a question for him, which I believe that you spent some part of your college, you're like on an online platform. What was the experience like, and how well do you believe that Caltech has handled the COVID situation?
Okay, I am officially, I don't think, in a place to even bitch about Caltech at all and say any bad words. But if I'm being honest, they could have handled it a little better. But then again, you can't blame the college because for them also it was a completely brand new novel situation, and no one was prepared for it. But it's been unique, you know. It was it was just a challenge, and for me, I kind of love challenges. So it was fun in the beginning. It was like, you know, you're talking on Discord all the time and you're sharing your screen, and then there are these softwares where you can share whiteboards. So when you're doing problem sets together, because that's a lot of the time you do at Caltech, it's like you had to do it on those whiteboards, and it was like, okay, this is completely new, and you just throw away all the notebooks and pens and whatever you used to use in class in high school, and you're like, now you're on with an Apple Pencil and an iPad. Like that is your stage right now, and you're just writing on your iPad. You're just erasing easily, and you're just submitting 20 pages on your iPad, just 20 pages of sums that you solved. So it was pretty unique. I am so happy actually that Mehul doesn't have to go through this. I mean, no matter how big of a challenge it was, it is not something I'd suggest for a student to have in their first year, because, you know, the challenges also include a lot of downsides on this fact that you can't just make new friendships virtually, right? I mean, it's like you're asking them for help. And if for me, it was felt like, okay, I'm just continuously asking them for help. It's like, ऐसा नहीं करते हैं मेरे पे, मतलब इस point पे आ चुकी है बात. It's like, you know, you're not forming a bond actually, right? You want to form a bond. It's like, then comes like, you can just ask them for help, or you can expect them to be there for you. You know, it's like, you're not forming friendships. You're just kind of getting to know people. Then out of the batch of 250 people that we have, I just saw the faces of, I think, 20 to 30 who were confident enough to show their face on Discord and turn their camera on and were in a position to show their face and have showered recently or whatever it was. Because a lot of the classes, professors would just give the lectures and most of them would be recorded. So a lot of students wouldn't even attend that because someone's in other time zones and it was easier for them to just watch at their own time. So it was very weird. You're just, sometimes it was like in our, those sessions that we have, those breakout sessions in which we discuss with the TAs, the problem sets in a smaller group of students, only 10 to 20 students at max, about the whole lecture that we did recently with the professor. In those classes, okay, so he would the TA would break us into 4 and 5K groups, just small groups, and give us a particular problem to each group to solve. And it was okay, 3 of them have their cameras off. So what am I, just talking to a blank screen and solving questions with that? How weird is that? And the transition you're sitting in high school with 10 different people, 30 students in a class, the teacher's there, you're having fun, and you're just solving questions with that. So it was just a very new experience. But yeah, nothing that I was, having very fun with or in. But yeah, it was a challenge. It was a challenge to, kind of try to talk to people, get them to feel comfortable with you, talk about other things rather than just the problem set. So it had some upsides also, in the sense that, since you managed the first term or the first year in a whole virtual environment, think of how it was just going to be a breeze when you're actually on campus, right? How it just prepares you for a better situation. So you went through the worst, and now it's you have that comfortable campus there, and you have like-minded people around you. So if you were able to manage in that kind of virtual environment, so how it just becomes a breeze for you once now colleges are going to open in fall. And Caltech just announced, I just posted on my story also, it just announced that undergrads have been the return has been approved. So me and Mehul, all of us are going to be going on campus. So I can't wait for that. But yeah, it was an unique experience.
Yeah, this is something we're facing over here in high school as well.
Yeah, everyone around the world is facing this. But yeah.
Mehul, I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about your application process before we end off for the day. Before you applied, were you in contact with, say, Asav or other seniors from Caltech? And if so, what concerns did you have that you needed their advice on?
Yeah, I remember texting Asav 3-4 times before applying to Caltech. I asked him if I could see his research paper, and I remember talking to him about the application process. And if I remember correctly, I talked about Caltech as well a bit. I also talked to Isha a lot. I've talked to a lot of people from the 2 batches immediately above us. I've talked to Asav, and I've talked to Ritvik, Isha, Kush. And I know Isha from my MUN days because we used to go to a lot of conferences together. So that's why I know these people, and I used to ask me to reach out to them. In terms of reaching out to people, yeah, I mean, I haven't talked to anyone apart from Asav and Isha. They're the 2 main people that I talked to during the entire thing. I read their research papers, and I went to their LinkedIn, and I saw their resumes, and I just tried to get a fair idea of the linkage between their resumes and their college. So I remember going on Asav's website, and I saw the internships he's done, and then all the swimming and the tennis competitions he's won, and I tried to form a linkage between that and Caltech. So yeah, I was just trying to through talking to senior, I was trying to get a fair idea of how do you turn your activities into something that can get you into your dream college, because whatever you do, it won't ever be distinctive in an applicant pool of 50,000 people. There's no way that you can do something unique in such a large applicant pool. The only thing that will differentiate you is your essays. So I asked both of them for their essays. I didn't read Asaf's essays because I also didn't want me to be biased while writing my own Caltech essays. So I read them after I actually applied to Caltech. I read Isha's essay beforehand, and that just gave me that idea of creating a slice that I talked about earlier. And then I just understood that flow of showing your journey and showing how something you've done has impacted you rather than talking about how you've impacted something else. So yeah, I guess that's it.
Honestly, thank you so much for being here with us. It has honestly really helped me since I'm planning to apply, and it's just a really good experience.
So, with that, we finally come to an end of this very productive session. Thank you so much for your time today. Be safe, and we hope to see you soon. A reminder, thank you for turning into the JPIS fundraiser live stream. This is a quick reminder for you to click the link in our description box below and donate to the COVID-19 crowdfunding campaign in association with Give India, Uplist, and Ujala Foundation.
It has been amazing. It was a wonderful session. Love talking to you guys and indirectly to a lot of viewers out there, from different backgrounds, from different situations. And I hope me and Mehul were a big help to you guys. And for someone out there who has Caltech as their dream, I mean, yeah, work hard. You're gonna get here. It's not impossible.